You know, I always love whenever I get a chance to try out a game before it launches. And it turns out to be not only better than what I was expecting, but basically secure it as a day one buy for me. I did that last year with Final Fantasy XVI, it happened earlier this year with the release of Unicorn Overlord's demo, and just a few days ago, it hit me all over again with the newest demo on the scene, Metaphor ReFantazio. I've been genuinely excited for the game as I've been very interested in what Atlus was going to cook up as their first new IP in a while. And after wrapping up the demo, I can definitely say they cooked a damn 5-star meal. But what exactly was so good about this demo? What did it fumble on? Well, let's go ahead and get into that, shall we? So, starting off with what I usually do in these, I want to talk about just how much I love how this game looks. Atlus have always been the grandmasters of pure JRPG stylization, and that flows into everything they work on. And while this game's areas, character models, monster designs, and various cutscenes, both 2D and 3D, all look absolutely incredible, the best looking aspect of the game was easily its menus and UI. Absolutely stellar design in pretty much every part of it. My favorite of them all, though, was the character profiles and health in the bottom of the battle screen. Hell, even the menus and battles themselves look absolutely stunning. You can really tell Atlus wants this to be something truly memorable through its visuals alone. It makes me real excited to see what the rest of the game is going to end up looking like, both in overworld and in battles. Speaking of battle, let me get into talking about the gameplay of Metaphor, because it was easily my favorite part of this surprisingly long demo. Now, if I were to label Metaphor's combat into a single phrase, it takes several aspects of what made titles like SMT and Persona so beloved and merge them together alongside adding in new mechanics to create a delicious stew of gameplay. For starters, we've got the original setup for SMT gameplay, where you get a set amount of turns to attack the enemy. We're utilizing tactics like maximizing criticals and weaknesses to give 2 more turns. But that also ends up working for your opponent as well, so you better be as prepared as possible. And on the other side, you have the Persona-like aspects like the bonding system, where forging bonds with the various members of the overworld can lead to your party not only unlocking new buffs for gameplay progression, but are also a gateway to unlocking one of the game's newest aspects, and that is the archetypes, special beings that you awaken by doing, well, see for yourself.
Very hard.
And these archetypes basically function as essentially the game's job system. And there's quite a few jobs to pick from Seeker to Knight to Mage, Healer, and several more that I haven't unlocked yet. Each not only comes with a new leveling system that teaches new skills at certain thresholds, but it also seems likely that you will be able to evolve them into stronger variations of said archetype later on, which honestly has me super excited to see what the mid to late game will be like. And that isn't even the biggest new addition to the gameplay, as Metaphor is the first game in the entire Atlus library to introduce an action turn-based combat hybrid similar to the likes of Trails Through Daybreak, where before a battle begins, you can swing on an enemy and with enough strikes can send the enemy into a stunned state. And once stunned, you can enter turn-based combat with a very flashy entrance, I might add, and gain an upper hand in battle. And once you win a battle, if you can get through the entire battle without taking any damage whatsoever, you gain additional amounts of money, Magol, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's basically what you need to teach people new skills, and most importantly, experience points that once you accumulate enough of it, your character obtains a level up, some increased stats, and a free stat point for whatever one you want to increase, which allows you more of a choice on what you want your protagonist to be focused on, whether it be a physical attacker, magic-based, or a tank. The choice is yours. There's also the inclusion of mechanics like synthesis skills, where 2 archetypes can combine together to unleash powerful combination attacks at the cost of using up multiple turns instead of just one. I think they're more similar to something like the Persona showtimes if they had an actual risk-reward style added onto them. And lastly, you have the reset clock, where if a battle isn't going in your favor, you can reset the battle to the very beginning and try again. A mechanic I think is great, as now players don't have to completely start from this last save point and have to skip through cutscene after cutscene to get back to bosses or sit through game over screens. It's pretty neat if I do say so myself. And with that, I'm gonna bring the gameplay chat to a close. There's a few more things I'd like to touch upon, but I'll save those for when I review the full game in its entirety. For now, I want to talk a bit about what I got out of the story. Honestly, it has me very interested from what little I've seen. A high fantasy story about the battle for the throne as it tackles several topics like racism, poverty, classism, and probably several other deep and emotional stories down the line. The characters all seem interesting and likable, and the antagonist General Lewis seems like a genuine threat and actually very interesting. I'd say my favorite part of the story is the reveal that the next king is going to be decided on the public's opinion, and you're just straight up forbidden from killing any of the participants. It's a nice rule that makes it so you just can't assassinate Lewis in a day. Has me curious on how we're even going to deal with the guy if that's the case. Well, I trust him. Kind of. Anyways. Plus, oh yeah, I probably should mention that. Plus, they even have a valid reason for the protagonist of the story actually being involved with the plot by giving him a friendship with the country's prince. I'm not totally sure how it will all pan out, but I do know I am pretty excited. Other than that though, that's what I believe worked. So now, let's go on to what I think didn't. So when it comes to my complaints with Metaphor, in all honesty, they all just kind of lie in the gameplay department. Characters were good, graphics were very pretty, and the narrative was very interesting. There were only two major things that I wasn't a fan of, and they both boil down to, like I said earlier, gameplay. So what were they? Well, first and foremost is my gripes with the action combat. Now, for the most part, I enjoy it. It has somewhat of a feel to a faster version of Daybreak. However, it's faster, it ends up lacking in one of the major things that I felt that was so interesting about Daybreak's combat, and that was the enemy aggression. While Daybreak is a bit slower and not as stylish as something like Metaphor is, the monsters on the field in Daybreak actually felt like threats trying to kill you. Meanwhile, Metaphor's monsters most of the time just felt like punching bags that are only there for you to kick the shit out of in order to get an advantage in battle. And keep in mind, I was playing on hard as well, so it's even more of a letdown that they barely fucking do anything. I'm really hoping that this was just due to me being in the prologue, because if not, this is a massive L from me. It also doesn't help that swapping overworld combat styles is kind of tedious, as instead of just tying it to like a button press, you have to go into your menu and swap your archetypes so you can get a new combat style. Like, I get it, you're swapping an entire job in comparison to just a character, but you could at least let me tie jobs to a button press to cut away a bit of the hassle. Other than that, the only other issue I had was with the calendar, as I feel like this game doesn't really need one added in. I don't hate the calendar system, as I feel like games like Persona implement it well enough, and I understand that it can work as a nice way to utilize tension, but man, I really cannot think of a reason they needed to even be in Metaphor in the first place. Call me cynical if you want, but I just don't see any way this makes the game more interesting. Do you agree with me? And if you have a good reason, just let me know down in the comments, because I even now can't see it. As for the last part of this section, well, more of a I hope they don't do it kind of thing rather than a problem with the game itself. I'm really hoping here that there is no twist that Lewis has been controlled by an evil god or something. Please, Atlas, just let him be an asshole that we need to take down. We don't need some God's plan here. Just let him be a massive douchebag who's gonna give me a ear-to-ear grin about beating his teeth in. With that said, that's all I think didn't work. So let's move on to my final thoughts now. With that, we are at the end of the video. Yeah, Metaphor had a couple of issues, but honestly, after playing this demo, I am way more excited than I ever thought possible. I legit cannot wait to make this a day one buy and review it. God, I'm so excited for October. But until then, I've got other stuff to focus on. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked what you saw, make sure to like and subscribe down below for more RPG content. Hit that bell for some notifications, and let me know in the comments down below if you thought the demo was good or not. That's all, folks. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.